Hey guys, hope you're doing well. But in this video, we're going to learn about tangent, sum and difference, identity, and then I want to show you one more at the beginning of this video where you're not using actual unit circle values, you're using values of sine and cosine in a triangle. Okay, so that's going to be the first example, and this actually will help you on your ALEKS assignment that you have on all this stuff. Okay, so you're using these values that are given to us below, and it tells you that sine of x is 9 over 41. So that's the value of the sine of our angle, and the sine of our y angle is 7 over 25. Okay, so I want to find the value of sine of x minus y. That is our sine difference formula. So I'm going to use a minus b equals sine A, cosine B minus sine B cosine A. Okay, and instead of AB, I'm going to replace it with the XY like they've done. Okay, so I know the sine of both of these angles. What I need to figure out is I need to figure out the y, the cosine of the angles. And in order to do that, I'm going to use my all students take calculus knowledge, and they gave me basically the quadrants. So x is between 0 and 90. That is quadrant 1. And y is between 0 and 90. Again, that is quadrant 1. Okay, so I'm going to draw angle x. Okay, and that's x. And sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So from our angle x, my opposite side is 9, and my hypotenuse is 41. Okay, I'm just going to use Pythagorean theorem to find that third side. So okay, and when I do that, I get 40. So that means that the cosine of x is 40 over 41. Right? Now I'm going to draw my y angle in the first quadrant. So there's my angle. And I know that the sine of this angle is 7 over 25. So that's the opposite and the hypotenuse. Okay, so if I find my missing side using Pythagorean theorem, I get 24. Okay, so these are nice numbers. They're not radicals, so we can multiply them pretty easily. But now using this, I know that my cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 24 over 25. All right, so now I know all 4 things I need to know, and I can just plug in my values. So sine of x is 9 over 41 times cosine of y is 24 over 25 minus sine y is 7 over 25 times cosine x is 40 over 41. Okay, and you guys could just use your calculators to simplify that. But 9 times 24, we've got, this is 216 over 41 times 25. Okay, and then 7 times 40 is 280, and 25 times 41, again, 1025. Okay, so then when I subtract them, I get that. And that is our final answer. Okay, so use that for your ALEKS assignments. You'll see ones like that on there. They're actually a little bit easier, but you just have to find using your triangles. Okay, so the next two I want to do are tangent sum and difference. And it's not that it's harder to plug everything in, it's just a little bit more algebra. So I just wanted to do these in a separate video. Okay, so I want to use the sum or the difference identity to find the tangent of 285, and I think I'm going to use the sum. Okay, so to find two angles that add up to be 285 that's on my unit circle, I can really do anything, but I'm going to use 240 and 45. Okay, again, there's a ton of different things that could add up to be 285. It's up to you guys what you want to pick, but those are just the ones that I picked. Okay, so I'm going to use my sum. So tangent of angle A plus angle B is tangent of angle A plus the tangent of angle B divided by 1 minus tangent A, tangent B. Okay, so tangent is the y coordinate divided by your x coordinate. So the first thing that you need to do is figure out the tangents of these angles. So the coordinate at 240 is what? Negative 1/2, comma, negative root 3 over 2. And at 45, it's just root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. Okay, so when I calculate the y divided by x here, I'm doing negative root 3 over 2 times 2 over 1. So I get negative radical 3. I'm sorry, positive radical 3. Okay, so it's the tangent at 240, and that's in the third quadrant. Tangent is positive in the third quadrant, so that matches up. Okay, and then when I do my y divided by x, I get 1. Okay, 45 is in the first quadrant. Tangent's positive in the first quadrant, so it makes sense that our answer is positive 1. Okay, so now I'm just going to plug in those values. So let's say tangent of 240 plus tangent of 45 over 1 minus tangent 240 times tangent 45. Okay, so I'm going to plug in my radical 3 plus 1 over 1 minus radical 3 times 1, which turns out to be that. So a big rule that you guys have learned in the past is that you can't have radicals in your denominator. And when there is a binomial radical in the denominator, so this is a binomial, the denominator, you need to multiply by the conjugate. So I'm going to multiply by 1 plus radical 3. Right? So I've got to FOIL the top, FOIL the bottom, and our top is going to be radical 3 plus radical 9 plus 1 plus radical 3. Okay, and then our bottom is going to be 1 plus radical 3 minus radical 3 minus radical 9. Okay, so up top, this plus this is a like term. So that is radical 9 plus 1 plus 2 radical 3 over. And then here we have like terms, but they end up canceling. Okay, the next thing that I can do to simplify is that radical 9 can simplify to 3. So this is 3 plus 1 plus 2 radical 3 over 1 minus 3, which is 4 plus 2 radical 3 over negative 2. When I have this, and I can simplify all three of those numbers by the same thing, I want to go ahead and do that. So I can divide each of those by 2. Okay, so this is 2 plus 1 radical 3 over negative 1. And they're actually going to want you to rewrite it like this. Right, so that actually turns out to be a negative number, which makes sense because 285 is in quadrant 4 and tangent is negative in quadrant 4. So that makes sense that it's like that. But just like those other ones, we can type it in our calculator and make sure that it works. So we have tangent of angle 285 degrees in the calculator. Okay, and then when I do negative 2 minus radical 3, I get that exact same thing. Okay, so they match and it worked. All right, and here's our last example. So we've got tangent of negative 105. Okay, I'm gonna leave it as negative 105, but if this messes with your head, you could always find the angle that is coterminal to this 105 by adding 360 and finding tangent of 225. It'll be the same exact thing, but I'm going to leave it like this because you'll have an example on your homework that's negative. Okay, so it makes sense for me to use the subtraction formula, so that way I don't have to use negative angles in my evaluation. I can just subtract positive numbers. And two things that subtract to be negative 105 are 45 minus 150. Okay, so I'm going to use my A minus B, which is tangent of A minus tangent B over 1 plus tangent A tangent B. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is I need to evaluate for all these tangent values. Okay, so I need to evaluate for tangent of 45 and tangent of 150. Well, if you remember from the last example, tangent of 45 is 1. I'm not going to redo that. Tangent of 150, the coordinate at 150 is negative radical 3 over 2, comma 1/2. So the y divided by x is 1 over negative radical 3. And I need to rationalize that. So it's negative radical 3 over 3. Okay, so I'm going to plug everything in. So this is 1 minus a negative radical 3 over 3 over 1 plus 1 times negative radical 3 over 3. Okay, so I'm going to clean that up a little bit. 1 plus radical 3 over 3 divided by 1 minus radical 3 over 3. Like we were doing with the simplifying and verifying trig identities, I want to get rid of these fractions within fractions. So I'm going to multiply this whole thing by 3 over 3, and that'll cancel my denominators. So when I distribute 3 to there and there, and I distribute this 3 to there and there, I get 3 plus radical 3 over 3 minus radical 3. Okay, and as we did in our last problem, I need to multiply by the conjugate of the denominator to get rid of that radical. So that is 3 plus radical 3. Okay, and I'm going to FOIL, so that is 9 plus 3 radical 3 plus 3 radical 3 plus radical 9 over 9 plus 3 radical 3 minus 3 radical 3 minus radical 9. Okay, and I'm going to simplify my like terms and get rid of those radical 9s all at once. Okay, so radical 9, remember, is just 3. So 9 plus 3 is 12, and then that's plus 6 radical 3. And then down here we've got 9 minus 3 is 6, and those two radicals cancel out. So remember, like I said, if you can divide all 3 of these terms by the same thing, go ahead and do that. And I can divide each of them by 6. Okay, so this is 2 plus radical 3 over 1, which is just 2 plus radical 3. Okay, and that makes sense because negative 105 degrees is actually in quadrant 3 because you're rotating clockwise around the circle, and tangent is positive in quadrant 3. Okay, so if I type in tangent of negative 105 in my calculator, I get 3.732. And if I do 2 plus radical 3, I also get 3.732. So they match up. It's correct. It makes sense. And that is how you do those. They pretty much don't get harder than doing that step right there. All right, so sorry about if this was a little bit long, but I just wanted to make sure I gave you those examples. And your assignment is to do, there's 4 problems from that worksheet. I want you to turn in the notes for that, for this video, notes or the worked out work for that worksheet. And then you also have an ALEKS assignment that is 9 problems. All right, I'll see you guys next week.